I paid $12,000 for a coaching program that promised me 20 clients in the next 180 days or a full refund. In this 180 days, I just got zero clients, absolutely zero. I followed their coach's guidance every single day of those 180 days. I submitted my tracking sheets, I attended Q&A sessions, you name it. I took the sales calls and submitted every single one for feedback, and when I asked for my refund, they just denied it. This is my story. Every claim in this video is backed by documented emails, recorded coaching calls, and publicly available evidence. The links are in the description. Anything that you think can be false or whatsoever, you can verify it yourself. So, my name is Hemant Kumar. I'm 19 years old and I want you to hear exactly what happened. Every private route that I could resolve this matter, the emails or whatsoever, I tried every single thing. The fun fact is, I sent this YouTube video script to EasyGrow and I gave them the time. I told them that this is the thing that I'm about to do. If you want to resolve this privately, this is the very last opportunity. And they just didn't reply. So here I am. I'm not going to make this video to destroy anyone's reputation. I'm making it because I tried every private route available to me. I sent detailed emails, I provided every piece of evidence that they requested, I offered to jump on a call, I remained professional throughout, and after months of back and forth, the answer was still no. So I'm just exercising the only option I have left is my right to tell you my own story factually and completely. So, if you are currently considering EasyGrow or any high ticket coaching program, this video is for you. I'm not making this video to scare you that all of these people are bad or whatsoever. No, I'm making this video to make sure that you go with your eyes fully open. So let's talk about who I was when I found this program. Now you can see the direction and lean forward slightly along. This was a YouTube video script. It took me a lot of time and I thought the story that I'm presenting is more important than these small things, because I could have just wasted another month or so or whatever time to make it even more perfect. But still, you can watch this thing and the message would be delivered very clearly to you. That's my promise. So let's get started. Before the timeline, I want to tell you something before we get into the timeline, because I think it matters. That this thing is, when I found EasyGrow, I was 19 years old, living in Berlin, Germany, originally from India. I was working part-time jobs. The job was 6-hour shifts with 6 hours of travel as well, 4 days a week. And personally, my relationship of 4 years was just ended. And I was not in a comfortable position at all. Nobody is, the international students anyway. So I was not someone testing a side hustle out of curiosity. I was someone who believed genuinely, completely, that this was the path to build something real. I had been watching Charlie Morgan's YouTube channel for a very long time. He is good. His content is genuinely valuable. This is the reason why I trusted him. Not because of a flashy ad or whatsoever, but because I've watched him for months and months and he seemed like someone who understood the business at a level most people don't. So let's talk about the $12,000 and the guarantee. EasyGrow cost $12,000 and it came with a guarantee that I believed meant the risk was manageable. And this is that story. The guarantee written in the contract, I have pasted the guarantee statement in the evidence box in the description so you can see what exactly their guarantee was. And what I have understood is the guarantee written in the contract states that if you do not sign 20 clients within the next 180 days using the program's strategies, you receive a full refund of what you paid, plus $5,000 for your time, and plus 12 months of free continued access. Let me say that again. Full refund, $5,000 and 12 months free. That guarantee is the reason I said yes. My thinking was simple. It was, I will do the work. I will not be lazy. This is a very important word. I was not lazy. I was doing the work. And afterwards I thought, like, if it still do not produce results, the guarantee protects me. So I paid $12,000 and I got started. What I did not understood yet And what this video is about is that a guarantee is only as reliable as the conditions attached to it. And those conditions, they had a serious problem. The sales call before I signed, because obviously if you're going to pay $12,000, you're not just simply pressing the card button, pay, and you're in the community. You have to attend a sales call with their sales closer. She kind of tells you if you should join the program and all sorts of things. It's a 1 hour call, you know it probably. So let's get into it. What exactly happened on the sales call? The call with Hannah, before I joined, I had a sales call with Hannah. She was one of EasyGrow's sales closers, and on that call, I was honest. I told her, and this thing is again provable, I told her I did not have an established business, I did not have previous experience in this niche. And Charlie Morgan himself says in his program introduction, at that time I haven't watched his program introduction, but still, at that Charlie Morgan himself says in his EasyGrow program instructions that if you do not have a previous business experience, this program may be not for you. But Hannah, whose specific job is to decide whether someone is a good fit, told me the opposite. She said that not having an established business was actually an advantage, that I could build things correctly from the start, avoid the mistakes others make, and come in fresh. The whole sales call's transcript, the whole sales call audio recording, and the particular section where this thing was stated is available in the links in description. You can verify it yourself. This is what happened, to be honest. And why I believed her? Because she gave me confidence. She told me that her own brother had gone through EasyGrow. I trusted that. I signed, I paid. I said okay. But I want to be fair. I did not read every line of that contract before signing. I accept that. I was outside, I was in a momentum of the conversation, but in the end it was my fault to not read that whole thing, and I accept that fairly. But it's also a thing that not everyone reads the whole 6 or 7 pages of their contract. But let me add something here again. And I think it is important to mention this as well, that the sales closer herself actively pushing the process forward quickly in real time. She was doing this thing. I still have the WhatsApp messages. I have attached that thing in the evidence box as well. And before I even paid, she was already asking me to sign the agreement and set things up immediately so everything would be ready to start. Her exact words were, "Can you sign the agreement and do this in the meantime for me?" These words were said by a sales closer, so I don't need to tell you what a sales closer is, how they speak, why actually they are a sales closer. Those are the obvious things. But when she was saying this thing, and she then sent me the zero community link and instructed me what to say when joining, and all these things, that environment, the pace, the momentum, the framing, that everything was already moving forward, absolutely influenced how quickly I signed. I mean, I had just been told by the person responsible for qualifying me that I was a good fit. That detail becomes relevant later. Now, 180 days, I was in the program. What I actually did, let's talk about it. So, what I actually do inside the program was, before we talk about what went wrong, we also need to understand what exactly I did. Every single day, 300 plus outbound messages. It's not an easy thing to do, because I want to tell you something. One person is very hard for it. So what I did was I've been sending I have been sending 300 messages, not alone by myself, but it was structured roughly around 100 messages by me, 100 from two team members working for me at that point, and later on we had a automated system. It was kind of a cheaper version of, you can say, the cold DMs, where you can automatically send DMs. The robot is sending, you just have to pay a little bit of the money, and 100 120 were sending by them. So on a safer side, I was sending more than 300 DMs. Some days probably it was less than 300, but to make the average kind of 300 messages per day, that thing was happening. I attended 20 plus Q&A sessions, not passive attendance, active questions, active implementation, and all of these things I'm trying to tell you, because all of these conditions were the conditions mentioned in the contractual guarantee that I had to fulfill in order to claim the guarantee. Because you need to understand, most people do not claim the guarantee because, first of all, they just do not qualify for the guarantee. So what I'm trying to explain here is this is all the things that I've done just to make sure that I was qualifying for the guarantee. Then their thing was acquisition genesis, basic things you can read. And this is something like the sales call submitted for coaching feedback. Every single one I did, whatever sales calls I happened to get from EasyGrow, I reviewed them and I gave them for the feedback. Iterations to messaging, targeting, outreach structure, VSL, all driven by what coaches told me to change. I did it most of the time at least, and everything tracked. Tracking sheets documented and submitted during the review process to the Sandra girl, which you will be hearing a lot in the upcoming chapters of this YouTube video. So, what that costed me personally. I was doing 6-hour job shift, 6-hour travel, a personal heartbreak, and still I showed up every single day. This is the point where I have to say you that I was not lazy. I had a lot of reasons to be lazy, but I knew if I'm going to be lazy, I won't be able to qualify for the guarantee, which means the risk will be completely on me. And the two check-ins, EasyGrow's guarantee had another condition that you have to notify them on 120 days and 180 days regarding your progress and all sorts of things. So I did it as written in the guarantee, and I submitted my claim, and everything changed. But to understand why it all changed, what exactly happened, what went wrong, I mean, you might be thinking like, what happened? You were doing all sorts of things, what they mentioned and all. This is the story. So I need you to tell you something that I called the structural contradictions. Sorry. So the two sets of instructions, opposite directions. Again, you will see the direction here and all. So you can just kind of watch it, ignore it or whatsoever. But the main thing is the story needs to be told. So this is not a complaint. Here is where this story becomes something different from a simple complaint about a coaching program not working. Because what I'm about to walk you through is not about me failing to execute, of course, because I was not lazy and I was doing the work. I have all the proofs of the work that I have been doing. And it is about two sets of instructions that pointed in opposite directions from the same company with no way to follow both at the same time. It's a little bit too much to understand, but I would help you to understand it. Let me start at the foundation. The guarantee requires this. After week 8, 300 outbound approaches per day, equally spread across at least two separate outbound channels. This was the kind of contractual statement. And two channels simultaneously from day one. This is the thing that the I have if I have to meet the contractual standard, I have to do this thing. But the coaching methodology teaches this. Pick one outbound channel, learn it, iterate on it until it's working, scale it as hard as you can, and then once it is performing, begin building the second. I mean, this is the logical thing. You cannot just start with two different channels and then kind of, uh, just execute it. So, this was just a small part where the coaching contradiction happened, and like the coaches said something else and the guarantee statement was something else. This is a very small example of it. We will not go too deep into it because I have bigger contradictions to worry about. So, one channel first, master it, then expand. Now, I want to be precise about something. Uh, Again, Charlie Morgan does reference the two channel structure in the program's introduction, but the operational coaches, the people, I mean, the introduction video, you are only going to watch it once you are inside the EasyGrow program, and afterwards, the most amount of conversation that you're going to do will be with the coaches. So, the operational coaches, the people you actually speak to week after week inside the program, consistently delivered the one channel first framework when you ask them how to build your outbound system. Now, you might be thinking, can this thing be verified? Of course, it can be. There were a lot of times when different coaches, not only the outbound coach, but the first of all, I want to say this thing. I have nothing against these coaches. They are very wonderful people. They try their very best and they know what they are teaching. It's a nice thing. My motive is that Charlie Morgan's course is kind of good, but it's not as good as he claims, like 20 new clients in the next 180 days. That's not something. Uh, so let's get back to the topic, it's just like, but the operational coaches, they just said this thing, and just build one system first and then build the other one. And this thing again can be verified by the coaching call recordings. Now, these two directives are structurally incompatible. The contractual compliance standard says two channels from the start. The practical coaching framework says one channel first. Following one made it harder, and in my case, impossible to satisfy the another. That tension existed from day one of my outbound phase. But it gets more specific than that. I already had one outbound channel running, that was DMs, because that was the only one which was the cheapest, and maybe you can say the free one. And the guarantee itself listed the that you have to do two channels, and if I'm already using DMs, the other channel that I could be using, the channel options were either email outreach, cold calling, or cold SMS. This was the thing. So out of those options, the two EasyGrow coaches, Oranian and Jamil, Oranian is the second outbound coach and Jamil is the cold calling coach, both of them confirmed that cold calling was a valid second outbound channel. So this is the route I began implementing, right? But later, during the support communication, when I had to notify Imperium Acquisition after 120 days, as mentioned in the guarantee, when I told that I'm doing all these type of things and I don't have any clients, I was told by Sarah from support not to run cold calling and to use email instead. Understand me? So here is the position that it created. If I continue cold calling, I am defying the support team that controls my guarantee review. So I have to worry about my guarantee as well. And if I stop cold calling, I lose my second channel and need to find an alternative. Terrible situation. So I consulted William Selvey. Now, William Selvey is their main outbound coach and EasyGrow's outbound coach, of course. So I consulted William Selvey about email as the alternative. So William assessed the situation. He knew all sorts of my background and things. So the proper email infrastructure, the domains, the warm up, the sequences, and like the deliverability software, all of these things required approximately 600 euros per month in ongoing costs, not including the first month where you cannot send any real outreach while warming up the domains. Now you might be thinking maybe you can do the free version and all. I asked that thing also, and you will get this answer in this exact same slides as well. So as a 19-year-old on a part-time student income, having already paid $12,000 for this program, that cost was not sustainable. And William's own assessment was this: under those financial constraints, he himself would not pursue the email, and his guidance to me was direct: do not choose email under those conditions. Double down on DMs. These were his exact words. I didn't thought out of it, that I can just think like I can do this or I can do that. He advised do this, and I followed my coach. Now let me show you exactly what that has left me. Follow the coaches on cold calling and go against the support. Follow the support, abandon cold calling, lose the channel I was already building. Avoid emails due to cost, miss the two channel requirement, and in the end, force email despite the financial constraint, go against the specific advice my assigned coach gave me in direct response to my exact situation. There was no path, not a single one, where I could have followed all the directions given to me and simultaneously satisfy every guarantee condition. I followed my coaches, but my coaches did not agree with each other, and that is the coaching methodology did not align with the guarantee structure. This is not my failure. If it's anywhere my failure, I always accept that. I always take the accountability. But this thing, that is a structural problem. This is a structural problem within the program itself. And when I raised this in my refund correspondence, what I got back was one of the most carefully constructed email responses I have ever analyzed. A close reading of what they wrote back. This is the sharpest section of this video and little bit of logical as well. So this is the main story. Walking you through it. So I want you to walk through what exactly happened when I brought this contradiction to Imperium's support team, because the response I received is, in my perspective, as revealing as anything else in this story. A person named Sandra handled my case. Her response did something very interesting. I mean, behind the scenes, I want to tell you something. Whenever I was getting a response from EasyGrow, me and my team, we were always thinking like, how can this be possible? I mean, what? This was always our reaction, and you will understand why it was. So what actually happened is she actually validated the coaching guidance and then used that validation to deny my claim. Now you might be thinking, what is this? Here is what I mean. Sandra acknowledged directly that the coaching advice I received, which was against email due to cost and against cold calling giving my situation, was, in her words, the right call in context. A coach who knew I could not sustainably fund email infrastructure, she said her exact words were in the emails written, would have been acting unethically to push me into it regardless. Understand it. Read that carefully because EasyGrow's own support representative confirmed in writing that the coaching guidance I followed was the correct guidance for my situation, right? And then in the same review, denied my guarantee claim on the grounds that the contractual conditions were not met. I mean, what? So I followed the right guidance. The right guidance made it harder to meet the contractual standard, and the contractual standard was still enforced. Understand it. This is the structural contradiction made explicit not by me but by their own written response. But the response did not stop here. You might be thinking, oh, this might there might be just one this type of thing. No, there are a lot. Sit with me. I mean, Sandra then introduced a second argument. Now, I want to tell you something here in advance so that you have the right way of seeing this picture. And it was, when a person makes a mistake, the least that they can do is accept it and be accountable. But what these people did was, instead of accepting their own mistake, they just flipped it on me. And you will understand it why I'm saying this thing when you are going through all of these slides that are coming in the future, right? So she wrote that what she could have also see from my record was a pattern of seeking new coaching input before fully implementing the previous advice received. I mean, I and let's see. She suggested that conflicting direction had accumulated because I moved between coaches in different contexts and that this explained how my situation developed. So, from her perspective, see, she is saying that I was seeking new coaching input before implementing the previous advice I received. This is what she says. And when I was kind of trying to reply to this thing, I was also thinking like maybe I did this thing, but later on I realized like wait, this thing has nothing to do with the case. I want to address this thing very directly because this is where I need to be precise. First of all, I am not claiming I was the perfect person for 180 days. I was not, of course I was not. And I was an imperfect operator learning under difficult circumstances. I accept that. Again, I take my accountability. But that general behavioral criticism does not apply to the specific case I was raising, which was the cold calling sequence. Here is that sequence again. Understand it. Coaches confirmed that cold calling was viable. I signed up for Go High Level and implemented it. That date is documented in my Outlook emails and it's also available in the evidence box that you can see, which means that during the 20-day notification that was mandatory to the support, I told the support, I didn't told the support told me not to run cold calling. Then I consulted William about an alternative and William assessed my finances and advised against email. I followed William and doubled down on DMs, that is implementation first. Like the coaches told me to implement cold calling, I signed up for Go High Level, which was again $100 per month. And then a contradiction from support. The support team, Sarah said, do not do this thing. So I have to listen to it. It was not that, I seek new advice before previously implementing the previous one. I implemented it. I signed up for Go High Level. And why would I do that if I had not to implement the advice? So I did implementation first, then a contradiction from support, then a consultation about an alternative, and then following what advice, That is not seeking new input before implementing old advice. This is following advice, encountering a contradiction from a different part of the same organization. I mean, I don't have a weird thing in my brain like, oh, let's just message Sarah today and see what she thinks about this thing. I had to do that thing because it was mandatory, because I had to do this thing because after 120 days I have to notify that I have less than 10 clients. So I was just doing that thing, and in between the timing was kind of, I was kind of new to pursuing this cold calling thing, and at the same time she said so. Understand it. This is following advice, encountering a contradiction from a different part of the same organization, and seeking guidance on how to respond. The behavioral criticism Sandra introduced was partially true about other moments in the 180 days. I accept that honestly, but it was not accurate, and it had nothing to do with what was going on, what the conversation was. It had nothing to do with it. And introducing a broader behavioral argument, one that is only partially relevant as the main response to a specific structural contradiction that had just been acknowledged. This is a shift in terms of the conversation. So instead of taking the accountability and saying, yes, maybe you are right, they just flipped on me like it's not our fault, it's your fault because you were seeking new advice. Understand it? The conversation I was trying to have in this email thing was that it was about one specific thing. The structure produced conflicting requirements, and following the coaching guidance made it impossible to meet the contractual standards simultaneously. The response I received expanded that into a wider evaluation of my overall executional behavior across 180 days. Those are two different conversations. And when one time I actually pushed back, I said, I mean, this was not the first time she did it. She did it previously as well. Let's read that again. And when I pushed back on one specific incident Sandra had cited as evidence, uh, February 25 date, maybe, I would mention that in the evidence box. It was happened that, on a specific date used to support her case, her response shifted again. She's What she exactly said me was that on a specific date I did not follow the coaching advice, and I told her exactly why I didn't follow the coaching advice. It was the offer audit guy. He was telling me like, your guarantee structure is very weird and I don't think this is something you should be having. But that guarantee structure was not given by my own brain. I asked William Selway, the guy responsible, and he kind of corrected my mindset. He did it, and all of this conversation was in the email, so I believe it is perfectly explained there, so it's no point of explaining it here. But you have to understand that she said that incident had not been raised to build a case against me. It had been raised to help identify gaps and suggest the most appropriate next steps. That the team genuinely wanted to support my growth and were open to a conversation about how to continue. This is called, in clear words, upselling. The inconsistency. Now, I noted the inconsistency. In a conversation specifically about guarantee eligibility, specific incidents were introduced as part of the analysis. When I challenged one of those citations, the framing retreated. It was not about the guarantee, it was about helping me improve. You see? And if the incidents were not relevant to my guarantee evaluation, they should not have been introduced in the guarantee evaluation as part of the analysis. I'm not going to tell you what to conclude from this. The emails are documented, the links are in the description. You can read them yourself. I would put the whole email conversation from start to finish so you can read it yourself. You can try to make some sense or logic out of her statements that I didn't found. Maybe you can do it. So, what I will say is this. The core structural contradictions I raised, that following the coaching guidance made it structurally impossible to meet the guarantee conditions simultaneously, was acknowledged in substance and then sidestepped. The conversation was redirected and specific incidents were introduced and then reiterated from when challenged. Whenever I said, "Why are you including this thing?" then her response was, "This is not for the guarantee evaluation. This is just because you can improve yourself." I said, "Wow, okay, thank you very much." So now you have the information, you can form your own view. I would still tell you that all of these things are in the description, the evidence box. You can just click it yourself. You can go through the whole email structure, the whole conversations that happened between me and Sandra. Then you can form your own view. And if you think the story finishes here, it did not finish here. There is more to come. This is just one out of the three things that happened with me in this guarantee evaluation. Let's get started again. The second reason given for the denial. There was also a second reason given for denying my claim, the sales call. In their initial email, Imperium support told me that the conversations had not progressed to the call stage, therefore, the sales call requirement could not be demonstrated. Which means if you buy their program and you do the outreaching by their methods and you do not book any sales calls, and then you cannot even, because obviously, if you do not have any sales calls, you cannot even demonstrate the sales calls, and it should be from their whatsoever it is. You just cannot say that. You cannot demonstrate anything about the sales call because they just do not exist in the first place. And when that thing happens, they can just simply say it, you cannot demonstrate it, so you are not eligible for the guarantee. This is one thing, and this do not stops here. That was factually incorrect. I conducted 6 to 7 sales calls during the program, and I provided all 6 recordings with links in my response. Then they did not came up with earlier in the exchange simply because they had not been asked for my out they have only asked for my outreach tracking sheets. Nobody had asked at this point for any call recordings until that moment, so of course I didn't provide it. But after reviewing them, Imperium's position changed again. They no longer said that the calls did not exist. Instead, they said the calls did not meet the standard of what they call the sales genesis framework. This is the sales framework that they teach inside their program. And they said that the core structural elements were absent. And I was like, I thought, okay, this two channel thing is still little bit logical. I can understand this thing. But what can they say to my sales calls? I mean, how can someone say this thing? And you would understand why I feel this way in just a second. I am a complete beginner in sales. I had never taken a professional sales call before entering this program, and the process the program teaches is watch sales genesis, take calls, submit them for feedback, implement the feedback, improve, and repeat. That is exactly what I did. Every call, I watched their content, sales content, which were 4 or 5 hours long, maybe. Then I built my script around that thing, all of what was mentioned inside of it. Then I took the call, I submitted, I received feedback, I implemented, and then I went to the next call. What did I do wrong here? I mean, the detailed analysis of what was wrong, the missing frame, incomplete qualifications, the urgency gaps, none of them none of that was communicated to me clearly when I was inside the program. And this is important context as well. The sales coach inside EasyGrow himself explained that the sales performance is realistically evaluated after around 30 sales calls because that is enough data to properly identify patterns and improve. The simple logic behind this thing, according to EasyGrow's standard, is like you must have enough data so that because if you just have one apple and you say this is the best apple, it do not makes any sense. Once you have enough data, once you have 30 apples, then you can say like, okay, this is the best apple and this is now, then when to do whatsoever changes you have to do. So I mean, I just took 6-7 sales calls, and the coach himself says that for proper evaluation 30 sales calls are required. So why my guarantee claim is being denied in this thing, I really did not understood. And this was the funniest denial for me in this whole thing. I mean, the two channel requirement was still little bit logical, but this thing, I mean, the logic has been thrown out of the window. And he even used examples. The sales coach, he was a nice person, he is a nice person, he's alive, I'm sorry. So he even used examples of other EasyGrow clients whose early calls were also rough at the beginning, but who improved over time through iteration, coaching calls, and repetition. I had only conducted 6 to 7 calls in total, and the structure of coaching itself matters here. This is something very important I have to mention here. It is that the sales coaching calls were not one on one calls, they were group calls, which means one was the coach and the other people were the clients. It was usually 1 hour with multiple clients asking questions at the same time, like one by one. First of all, one person asks, the coach answers, the next person asks, like this. Realistically, it was not even possible for either me or the coach to fully dissect an entire 1 hour sales call recording live on those calls. In fact, when submitting sales calls for review, we were specifically told to point particular timestamps or section we wanted feedback on, because reviewing an entire call in full during the coaching call would take too much time, and it's just realistically not possible. And I have nothing against this thing. I mean, this is how you can actually get the feedback from, and this is what exactly I did. So what went wrong here? So the process became identify the part I personally believed was weak, not the overall sales. I mean, if I do not know sales, how can I say, like, I think this part was also wrong, and this I thought, okay, I think this was where I messed up, so I need advice on this, and then the coach gave me the advice. So the process became identify the part I personally believed was weak, point to that timestamp, receive feedback on that section, implement it, and improve. And to be fair to the coach, I completely understand why that process worked that way given the time constraint. Because this also meant I was never receiving a complete top to bottom breakdown of my full sales process when I was a paying client inside EasyGrow. When did I get a complete top to bottom breakdown? When I asked for my refund. So, when much broader structural problems with my calls were later raised during the refund process, my reaction was very simple. I was like, how was I realistically supposed to identify and correct issues across the entire call structure if full call evaluations were never realistically part of the coaching format itself? One thing you have to understand is it's not that EasyGrow cannot do the whole top to bottom call review, because they actually did it within just 1 day of my 6 7 calls recordings that I sent them. They can do that thing, but they will not do that thing when you are inside their program as a paying client. They would keep their cards close to their chest, and when you ask for the refund, they would throw that card in front of you, and then you would be like, wow, amazing. I mean, and if you compare my first submitted sales calls to my last ones, I would attach that as well in the evidence box. You can see I had 6 to 7 sales calls. There is visible improvement in those calls. I mean, I went from awkwardly speaking off camera while heavily dependent on a script on a sales call to communicating with noticeably more confidence and structure on camera. Things were improving, I was iterating, and I was learning. But still, I was extremely early in this process, only 6 to 7 calls in, while the coach himself explained that meaningful evaluation usually requires closer to 30 sales calls. It was communicated to me, and again, if you want to kind of verify this thing, this was provided in the sales in the coaching call recordings of the EasyGrow, because again, this thing can be verified. I'm not inventing anything from my side. You have every single evidence, verify it yourself, and then stand with your decision. It was communicated to me after I asked for the refund. If those issues had been caught and corrected during the 180 days, maybe the outcome would have been different. Maybe I would have signed clients. And they were not caught and corrected during the program, and those same issues are now the reason my claim was denied. I will let you sit with that, think about what just happened, think whether it was fair or not fair, and think, do you really want something like this to happen with you when you join EasyGrow or any high ticket program? Think about it. Now, two of the things finished. The last thing, the precedent they couldn't explain. Here is one more piece of this story I cannot explain away, and neither it seems could Imperium. There is a publicly available Trustpilot review. Link is in the description again, where Imperium issued a full goodwill refund to another client in materially similar circumstances. A client who was advised by the coaches to focus on one channel, who fell short on the two channel requirement as a direct result of that coaching guidance, and he received a refund. Now, one important and interesting thing to mention is that guy said that Imperium only issued this refund when he initiated the legal action. But what was Imperium Acquisition's reply to that thing? They said, we only did this thing because first of all you didn't met the contractual guarantee, and then we did this thing as a goodwill resolution. A goodwill resolution is there to the people who initiate legal actions, but the people who do not do that, no goodwill is there. And I mean, the cases are so similar. What happens next is again astonishing. I mean, see, Imperium's own public response to that review confirmed the resolution happened, and when I raised this in my emails, Sandra acknowledged the refund happened but said my case involved different circumstances. I mean, what? What is different here? And I asked directly and specifically because I needed to know what is different here. At least tell me what's different so I understand. Maybe I'm thinking wrong. What are the differences between that case and mine? I never received a clear answer. First of all, she said the cases are not identical and they are different. When I asked what is the difference, she says, due to privacy reasons, we cannot tell you what are the different things, even though they look very similar, but still they cannot tell me, and they didn't told me what was different because I don't know what is different and what is not. The emails are documented. This whole thing was again in the email conversation that happened between me and Imperium. The Trustpilot review is public. You can read both. The links are in the description. I am not drawing your conclusion for you. I am giving you the facts, all the evidence of my story from my side is in front of you. One more thing, the complete picture. I mean, why my refund was denied, you already know, but there was one interesting thing I really wanted to add inside of it. It was one more thing, briefly, because it was also the part of the complete picture. During the 180 days, I posted something in EasyGrow community. It was a peak performance challenge because I was in the peak performance niche. So I had a peak performance challenge I designed as a 50-day discipline system, stuff like that. And to frame that concept, I referred the blue whale challenge, something not very suitable to do. I accept that, and it's not as something to promote as a dark psychology example I have been studying. My idea was very simple, that if dark psychology can be engineered to push someone towards destruction, why can those same principles not be re-engineered toward discipline and growth? That was my concept, a performance challenge using the same psychological architecture but for something constructive, not destructive. I did not frame it well. I accept that. I apologized immediately. What I did was I mentioned the 50-day challenges of the blue whale, and then I said how these things are, you know, how these things will be happening in my performance challenge because it was important. I had to give the reference thing and see what happened. William Selby, the outbound coach, handled it professionally as he was supposed to do so, right? He explained why it was removed. He checked if I was okay, treating me with complete respect. He was William Selby, the outbound coach, not the CEO of this business, but just the outbound coach. He handled it professionally. But see what Charlie Morgan did. Charlie Morgan's private response to me was to call what I had posted extremely disturbing, okay, and to recommend I seek help from a psychiatrist. I mean, why? And no question about my intention, no acknowledgement of my apology, just that. Wow. I had paid this man $12,000. And I'm not sharing this to attack his character, of course. I understand people react strongly to things they find concerning. But I want you to have the complete picture of how I was treated as a paying client, as a 19-year-old who was genuinely trying his hardest under very difficult personal and financial circumstances. I included it only for that reason, nothing more. Oh, so it is finished, but I want to add something. It's like you cannot even send a direct message to the coaches because it goes against how the EasyGrow community works. You either have to post the question in the community or ask it on a coaching calls. And if you do not have free time on a specific time available for the coaching call, you can just type it in the community. And that is what I did. What's the big issue in that? But leave it. Here is where I stand. Again, look directly into the camera, a little bit of humor inside. So, here is where I stand. I paid $12,000. I executed for 180 days. I followed my coaches. My coaches did not agree with each other. The coaching methodology and the guarantee structure did not appear aligned. The support team contradicted the coaches while implementation was already underway. And when I asked for my refund, the guidance I followed, which Imperium's own support confirmed was the right guidance for my situation, was used to deny my claim on the grounds that the contractual standard was not met. Imperium's final position is that my claim is denied, and my position is the guarantee was not applied fairly because the conditions used to deny my claim were shaped in part by structural contradictions within the program's own guidance. I tried to resolve this privately. I gave them every opportunity you can think of. I offered a call. I stayed professional in every single email. And I hope I am professional in this YouTube video as well, most of the time at least. The answer was still no. If you are considering EasyGrow or any high ticket coaching program, please, I request you, do not let this video be the thing that stops you from pursuing your goals. But please read the full contract before you sign, especially the guarantee conditions, and ask specifically how the guarantee conditions interact with the coaching methodology. Ask what happens if coaching advice conflicts with contractual requirements, and what happens if support direction contradicts coaching direction. These are the things you must ask, because if you do not ask, something similar would happen maybe to you as well. Get that clarity in writing before you pay, right? And if you have had a similar experience with EasyGrow or any other high ticket program, I would genuinely like to hear from you in the comment section. If you believe this story deserves to be heard, you can share this with one person who is currently considering a high ticket program. I mean, that's all I'm asking, and that's also a little bit for my benefit, but to a person who really wants to join EasyGrow, and then he can just see what he can expect as well. And if you have your own experience with especially Imperium Acquisition or EasyGrow, please leave a honest review to their Trustpilot page, not to harm their reputation, not to do any bad, but honest reviews, either positive or negative, are how the market corrects itself. The link is again in the description. I am Hemant Kumar. I'm 19 years old, and I invested everything I had into building something real. That story is not over. Thank you for watching.